The Real Estate Story with Adrian Butera.
Hi everybody, once again I am excited and delighted to bring you The Real Estate Story, coming to you live here from the studio, my daughter's bedroom here in downtown Williamstown. Welcome along to what I'm sure is going to be one of our very special episodes, and I'm also excited to announce that this is our 20th episode since the lockdowns, or I should say since the pandemic. We're in stage 4 here in Victoria if you're new to join us, and we're dealing with it best we can, but really rapt to come to you live here from the studio with a very special guest here today. I'm really pleased to say to you we've got Owen Wilson, the Chief Executive Officer of the REA Group, realestate.com.au, as many of you know it, and I'm going to be delighted to ask some challenging, some fun and interesting questions over the next 30 minutes. Thanks for joining us. We'll go straight to Owen Wilson. Owen, welcome along to The Real Estate Story.
Thanks, Adrian. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you, and I'm really pleased that you agreed. It's such an interesting time in real estate, particularly in Victoria. How's REA coping with the pandemic at the moment? It's a big question. I'm going to find out a bit more about you in a moment, but tell us how REA is going.
Look, we're going reasonably well given the circumstances. We moved to virtual working really quickly. And being a tech company, we were lucky enough to be set up to do that. We had extensive use of video conferencing already. We had a very flexible working policy, so people could kind of work from anywhere at any time. And so moving to 100% virtual was pretty easy for us. But that said, you know, like most businesses, it's starting to wear a bit thin after 6 months of working out of bedrooms, lounge rooms. Bathrooms occasionally for some people, where they've got little kids and they're trying to hide from them, and trying to do product development and roll out a whole bunch of new stuff while we're doing that virtually. It's been pretty tough. And of course, you know, we've been whacked around by the market, just like everybody else has.
Yeah, it's been an interesting time, and you guys are at the pointy end of the marketing of the real estate, which has really had a huge impact, particularly here in Victoria. But can I ask, I want to go back, whilst we're in the midst of this pandemic right now. You started at REA, your appointment, I think, late 2007. You started 2008, early 2018, I should say, and you started just before the Royal Commission. You had transitioned from the CFO to the CEO at REA, and could I say to you, and this might sound a bit harsh, but you got smashed straight away with the Royal Commission, and you've sort of carried that journey to no fault of you, but it's been a challenging time, I'd imagine.
Yeah, look, I've joked with a few people. I don't know if I ran over a black cat or smashed a mirror or something on the way into this role, but my timing wasn't brilliant. Walked straight into the Royal Commission, and that had an enormous negative impact on our industry. And I've got to say, it might still prove out to be a worse impact on our industry than COVID. If I look at what's happening around the rest of the country, it's almost business as usual. But the Royal Commission really hurt because it took the buyers out of the market. You know, banks were so frightened for such a long time about lending money that, you know, what the new regs are going to be, were they breaking them? And so we saw credit just completely dry up, which took the buyers out of the market, which took the sellers out of the market. And so it was a very tough time. You know, the fourth quarter last year and the first quarter were diabolical. And then we coupled that with that election, which seems like an eon ago now, but, you know, we thought we were going to get a change in government. And that really, again, took the wind out of the sails of the property market. Because if you recall, it looked like we're going to lose negative gearing, we're going to have a change in government, we're going to lose imputation credits. It was a pretty volatile time for the economy, and our market got hit accordingly. And then we rolled into the most catastrophic bushfires we've had in a generation, I think. And then a little thing called COVID came along just as we saw the recovery coming, got our head back above water at the start of March. Everything was looking pretty good then. And it's been pretty terrible, obviously, since then.
Yeah, what an amazing transition you've had, and you've been fast tracked into learning pretty quickly. Can I point out something that I identified, and this might be widely identified, but so COVID hits early this year, and I take a quick glimpse at the REA shares, and they travelled south from sort of $120 down to nearly half, $60 if I call it in round numbers. And it seemed like through some good decisions, which came from some good leadership, I'm going to guess not just you but your team, that share price, whilst the pandemic hasn't gone away as yet, through some, I guess, key decisions, you tell me, that share price is back at $120. Why did the market respond? Why has REA travelled so well during these times? I'm keen to hear your view and share some of your leadership on that.
It's I must admit, we're pleasantly surprised at where it's come to, given, as you said, where it got to right at the height of the pandemic. There's a couple of points. The stock markets are forward-looking, not backwards-looking. And so anything that's behind you is kind of forgiven to a certain extent in the share price, and the market is looking forward. I think the biggest tick we got as a management team was on two fronts. One was how quickly we responded with offers and support measures to our customers and to the market to try and help stimulate the market. The second was just how strong our audience has been through this. And even, I've got to say, I'm, again, pleasantly surprised at that. We had 12 million Australians visit our site in July. That's 60% of the adult population. It's quite incredible. And the third one, and probably the one that was the most positive surprise for the market, if you call it that, was our management of our cost base. We always told the market that if there was a downturn, we could pivot pretty quickly and adjust our cost base. And, we delivered a 9% reduction in costs for the year and a 20% reduction in the fourth quarter. And the market sort of gave us a big tick for that. And then we said to them, look, we're going to keep them flat for another year until we can see what's happening. And then we'll start to ramp up investment again. And again, I think they saw that as a huge positive. I think they saw us as a high cost growth business. And we always said we don't have to be, but we got a big tick for that.
I'm curious, I'm going to ask you about that, but let me ask you first, why 12 million Australians looking at real estate when they're stuck inside their own homes? Is that an obvious answer?
Well, it's not obvious, actually, because I always get asked, is that just people sitting at home in ISO, bored out of their brains, looking at property? When the reality is, outside Victoria and Melbourne in particular, in July, most of the rest of the country was kind of living a normal life. The reason why I know it's not people sitting in ISO is the buyer inquiries are also up about 50% year on year. So these are people making actual inquiries on property, and even in here in Victoria. And I put that down to the exact opposite of what the Royal Commission was, that the banks have got enormous liquidity at the moment. The RBA, when this pandemic hit, opened up the floodgates in terms of cheap funding for the banks to be able to lend. So this is not a liquidity crisis, this is a health crisis. And so the banks are fighting over each other for market share at the moment. So if you're a borrower and you still got safe employment, and the vast majority of the country still does, you can get cheap finance. And so the interest in property at the moment has never been stronger, I think, not in my time at REA.
Yeah, it's certainly, and you're hearing it from agents out there, it's a great time to buy, and we wish we could transact, particularly in Victoria, because of our current lockdown situation, which we hope is going to change soon. But during this pandemic, I would imagine, whilst you've looked at that leadership and you've driven that well, and the market's responded accordingly well, which is, what about your team? How's the innovation gone? How has development gone? I know myself, I've done probably 5,000 auctions on the street, but I've now done 10 auctions virtually. What does that look like in REA? I know you guys, I was very lucky to attend one of your hack days some years ago and saw innovation at its best. What's happened in that innovation space in arguably one of the biggest tech companies in the country?
Funnily enough, it's accelerated, even with the challenge of virtual working. And in fact, those hack days are brilliant. And, we love to bring guests along to that because it just shows the innovation culture we've got at REA. We've actually done a virtual hack day while we've been locked away. They got into virtual teams, they had to do virtual presentations. You had to go around and visit the virtual rooms to see the hacks. It was really cool. And already some of the hacks are in production.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Oh, it is. It kind of gives me goosebumps to see how smart our people are, seriously. What it did is it accelerated a few things. So we had to really move quickly to try and help the market keep moving while the pandemic effects were coming in, particularly the restrictions. So we really ramped up our digital inspection offering. I think we're seeing something north of 16 million digital inspections since March. 3D tours, we're running at about 15 million inspections now. Changing the site so that we could do private appointments instead of the usual, open for inspections. Online auctions, we've now integrated every single online auction platform in the country onto our site, even our competitors. We said, look, we need to be agnostic here because that helps our customers. So we'll just take them all and integrate them all. And so even, our competitors is on our site, for example. And then it also brought forward some product thinking. So we brought a lot of offers into the market to help our customers get consumers across the line to list, such as REA Upgrade, relist, etc. But we also experimented with things like pay on sale. So we brought in our first ever pay on sale product. It was only available for a small part of the market, and it's been interesting to see that as an experiment.
How did that get taken up? I know we had the offering and we weren't quite sure about it. We didn't feel right. How did it get taken up?
I think our customers are a bit polarised on this product. Some don't like it because then the vendor doesn't have skin in the game. And it's too easy to just walk away. You've got absolutely nothing at risk. On the other hand, the customers who used it, particularly in the height of the restrictions and the drop in consumer confidence, they said it really helped get some nervous vendors across the line to list. And so they have told us they got some listings they don't think they would have otherwise got across the line, but for this product. Having said that, the ones who worry about conversion are probably right. The volume of them that's sold is relatively lower than we expected. And so that may support the view that if a vendor doesn't have skin in the game, it's probably too easy just to walk away from the process. So we've kept that experiment in place just in Victoria because of what's going on here to try and help get vendors up. We'll draw a line through it on 30 September and then we'll go back and we'll do the analysis and say, look, is this something that will help the market or hinder the market? And we'll make a decision down the track on that one.
Oh, and with that innovation, and we've talked about some of that leadership that's been identified in the market, where do you go in a big business like this and you've got a development team, you say, right, guys, what's next? We were going to do this, but I don't know if the market's ready for it. How do you keep innovating? What's next and what's the next big challenge, or what could we expect to see? And I want to isolate the private landlord conversation out of that, but what else is out there that we could see on the horizon?
Look, unfortunately, a lot of this is really commercially confidential because our competitor would love to know what innovations we're working on. It's, and I don't mean this to sound twee because that's not me. But the list of stuff that our teams, the ideas, kind of almost seems endless. And we have this huge dilemma. There's only so much cost we've got to play with, particularly in this market. And so therefore we're constantly trying to work out which ones are we going to play with and which ones we leave on the whiteboard and try again later. So I'm just going to have to tease you and say there's a bunch of stuff.
I believe you.
We've got coming, and some of it will be directly benefiting customers, particularly in the way customers can present themselves. I'll give you a bit of a hint to vendors and to landlords, etc. Some of it will be to help vendors and bring them to market. Others on the buy side, and the other one we're really excited is we want to kind of take away some of the pain points for tenants in the kind of clunky rental process at the moment. So there's a stack of stuff still on the drawing.
Stack coming through. God bless the hack days. Clearly they're working and working well. Now, talking about tenants, that's a really good segue to talk about an announcement REA made in regards to tapping into private landlords or giving them the opportunity to market on your platform. Obviously, there was I imagine some concern throughout the industry. I can say there was some consultation. I know I was consulted as part of that and added my 10 cents worth in that conversation. I imagine you did that through many businesses. What drove the decision, and where do you see that taking your relationship with us as agents and the future of that part of the business?
Sure. So you're right. We've been talking to our customers about this for, well, at least since I've been CEO, so it's 18 months and probably a little bit before that, around, going down this path. And the reason why for the extensive consultation is we, wanted to explain to the market why we think it's actually in our customers' best interest for us to do this. The reality is we're the only portal in the market that wasn't doing it. So every other property portal in the market took private landlord listings, and we had tried to put this off for as long as we could. But we've got to the stage now where 30% of landlords actually don't use an agent. So it's a significant part of the market. It's already happened. We didn't drive that. We never let them on our site. But we've got the situation now where a tenant who wants to look at, all the properties that are available on the market has to go to Gumtree, has to go to Facebook. You're not going to see them with us because there's this big chunk of the market that's sitting off to the side that we refuse to touch. So the first goal in doing this was to try and get all the listings into one place so that prospective tenants can see them all. The second goal, though, is one that we're very passionate about because we know we've done a lot of surveying of private landlords, and we know that 24% of them are considering the use of a property manager in the next 12 months. And that's our secondary goal here, is to try and convert private landlords back to being managed by our customers. That's in our interest and it's in our customers' interest, because our view is a landlord that's being managed by one of our customers is probably going to be one of our customers for life, because once you've got them, we think it's self-evident that the value of what a property manager brings to the process is, and we think, once we can get them into our customers' footprint, they'll hold on to them for longer. So that's a big part of it. And so the way it's going to work on our side is when a private landlord comes into this experience, we're going to prompt them to say, look, we know you're here at the list, but have a look at the property managers in your suburb at the moment, have a look at their offerings, read their testimonials, have you considered actually having someone else do this for you, and try and get some of them converted back to being managed. So, we are hoping to drive a significant number of leads to our customers. And even if we don't do that on the first time, if we can find out who these private landlords are, we have got the opportunity then to market our customers to them over time and say, look, you didn't convert last time, but maybe next time or the time after, we can get a chance to convert them to being managed by our customers.
Owen, what do you say to the agents out there that feel threatened by this, and that this is the first stage of REA getting more involved in going direct to the client, and this is just the beginning?
Yeah, so I can be absolutely unequivocal on this. We never want to be a property manager. Never. And the simple reason is, if any of you, your listeners, have got property management businesses, they will know exactly why we don't want to do this. It is a really people-intensive business. The collection of the rent, the repairs, the evictions, all the things that go around the whole property management space. It's just not where we want to play. We're digital, purely digital. So we see our role is in the connections business, connecting tenants with landlords, but via our ideal is via a property manager.
What about sales? Does the future hold the opportunity for private sellers to do the same thing?
No, because again, we think that our offering is best dealt with through agents. And in fact, some private sellers get onto our site via, we call them FISBOs. These are these agents who have been set up to just do this. And by law, because of ACCC, we cannot ban them from our site. If we would. Our view is no, definitely not on the sales side. It's still a tiny, tiny part of the market. They don't want to spend money on advertising anyway. So our view is, we've got to help defend that and defend our customers against disruption there.
As and it's good to hear, and I think it's certainly very topical with the recent announcements. And you might recall, or you may have read, or you may have been I think you were a CFO at the time when there were some conversations, whether they were said properly at the time or not by one of your older predecessors, that sort of alluded to the fact that may have happened. And I'm pleased to hear you say that today, and I'm sure many of the listeners that are tuning in would be pleased to hear that that's not part of the immediate future. I hope it's not part of the long-term future as well.
It's not part of any future
Good.
that I've ever heard of at REA or would ever be part of. We have pinned our entire strategy, and I've got a lovely little diagram that shows how this works. We've pinned our entire strategy on successful agents being part of this market. And so we see our role as to make our customers as successful and as profitable as they can be by trying to make everything they do as efficient as possible. So bringing in the most efficient source of buyer leads and the most efficient source of seller leads. I don't think anyone can replace what an agent does. So a fundamental of that premise is the value an agent brings to the sale process can't be digitised and can't be replaced. And that is creating price tension for a consumer on their most valuable asset. You can't digitise that. It's a skill. It's a value that, and tell me a vendor who wouldn't say their agent paid for themselves, a good agent paid for themselves in that process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an important tool.
Our entire strategy is predicated on that being part of the market. Now, there are other players out there who would think they can get into that. So, your Facebooks and those sorts of disruptors. Our little diagram we've got is it's a moat around us and our agents, and we're here to protect the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, well done. Again, very pleased to hear that, and thank you for those insights. Now, how about you, Owen? You're working from home. It looks like you're working from home. Have you been home since March, thereabouts?
I have. I'm really lucky. I've got a pretty good home office here, and if you spun around, you'd see it's full of a lot of man cave stuff, which this is my room. So I've been in here since March. Luckily, during stage 3, we kept our office open and said to staff, look, if you want a day off, like a day away from your lounge room or your bedroom or wherever you're working from, you could go into the office. We limited numbers and made sure it was COVID safe. And so I was doing that probably once a fortnight, going to the office for a bit of a break, and it was such a great break. So stage 4 has been pretty tough. I'm hoping we go back to stage 3 on Sunday week, and we can go and at least have some human contact.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to that. Now, I'm not supposed to mention it, but I'm going to. You're a Hawks supporter. How did the Hawks go last week?
Oh dear. It's funny, and look, I've got 4 kids, and so we're a one-team family, and we sat down to watch it. And we said, let's just hope we don't embarrass ourselves in front of the competition by losing to Adelaide. And sure enough, we've given the bottom side their only win of the year. Look, this will be a rebuild year. We haven't had good draft picks for a while, so I'm either the optimist. Let's get some draft picks in and go again next year.
So, as the leader of one of the biggest real estate portals, footy passion. Do you have any other passions that you can share? What do you do when you're not at the footy and not REAing?
Yeah, look, I am a bit of a sports nut, and it's a lot of sports. I love cricket as well. I've been to every Lords Ashes test since 1989, so nice. Perfect track record there. Love my AFL, so go and watch kind of every Hawks home game. I'm a real foodie. I live for food, so eating out. I'm constantly looking at restaurant reviews, trying to find the next big thing in Melbourne to go and try out. And I don't mind a glass of wine as well. So I've got a little bit of a wine collection going here. So that's seen some damage during COVID, I can tell you.
How does a foodie go in a lockdown? No restaurants.
Yeah, it's tough. So a lot of home delivery. So for Father's Day, we've already pre-ordered from our favourite Italian restaurant for Father's Day lunch this Sunday. So we've been trying to support our favourites, do as much takeaway as we can just to get them some money in, try and support them through this as much as we can. But I've got this long list of where I'm going to go when we're out.
Fantastic.
And my other big passion for the last 15 years is a group of mates and I third Tuesday of every month, it's pot and parma night. And so we work our way around the pubs of Melbourne, having a parmigiana and a few pots and talking a bit of rubbish third Tuesday of every month.
Sounds like you've got a lot of catch up to do when the gates open.
Oh, I do. You won't see me for dust when the restrictions come off.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and I'm right there with you in supporting the locals, because you know our local businesses, our local communities need that support at the moment, and we sometimes, not always, but sometimes get caught up so much in our own businesses and our own lives we forget.
Yeah. Every time I've been in the car, I've been calling into the coffee shop next to work just to kind of buy something from them for the, you know, hopefully see them through and to the other side.
Yeah, wonderful. Oh, and look, I'm certainly very appreciative of your time. Thank you for joining us on The Real Estate Story. Give us a brief insight, not only into you personally, but the REA business and what they've done over these pandemic times. And we're certainly very appreciative. I can only talk about my business, but I think I carry a similar sentiment amongst our industry, particularly in Victoria. We appreciate of any support, and you guys have been there, so we're certainly appreciative of that support. Owen Wilson, thank you very much for joining us on the Real Estate Story. And to all our listeners, we will see you next week.
Thanks, Adrian. It's been a pleasure.
The Real Estate Story brought to you by